Hello, David here at merchantaccounts.ca. Today I'm going to tackle a topic: why do cross-border transactions tend to get declined? Stay tuned, we're going to dig in 1 second. So I'm going to start by clarifying, we're talking about cross-border declines. We're talking about legitimate transactions where you have tried to process a card and it got declined for a ridiculous, frustrating reason, because it's a totally legitimate transaction and a customer that wants to purchase. I'll start by explaining why this happens. Card issuers have anti-fraud algorithm. This is the card issuer trying to stop and prevent fraud from occurring to protect themselves and the cardholder. And these algorithms aren't perfect. I'll give you an example. My dear grandmother, bless her heart, if her credit card got used online in some European casino at 4 a.m. for an online gambling transaction, it does not take expert level anti-fraud algorithm to sleuth out the fact that's totally outside of her profile. She would never do that. She wouldn't even be awake at 4 a.m. So that's an easy one to spot. But these algorithms are sophisticated and it's not always obvious. So some of the things that they might tend to look at is, does this cardholder typically purchase out of country? And it's weighted. It's even, does this cardholder typically purchase from merchants with this merchant classification code, meaning merchants that sell a specific type of product or service? Or does this cardholder typically purchase, transactions that are this much? And it's a weighted scoring thing. So if too many things get ticked, if too many risk factors show up on a transaction, sometimes the card issuer will block it, unfortunately, erroneously, and it will result in a decline for you as a merchant and a frustrated customer because they're just trying to buy this thing and move on with their life. Now, it's worth saying that these declines can increase with ticket size, MCC codes, and also demographics, the type of customer that you're servicing. But really, what can you do about it? Because you can't control the issuer, or can you? Well, it turns out you can. You can at least stack the deck in your favor as much as possible. And the way that you do that is by passing the best information that you have. So when you submit the order, when your website submits the order to be processed, you should include the customer's full billing address. That's their street address, the number of 123 some road, their city, their postal code. All of these things will let the card issuer match the address that you've submitted to the address they have on file. And this is called an AVS match. Additionally, I'm sure you've seen the 3-digit security code on the back of a credit card. Well, if you include that with the order, then the issuer can say, hey, the AVS match, the CVV code matched, and maybe that's enough to tip the scale in your favor and let the transaction through. Because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to convince them that this is a legitimate transaction. Now, there's other things you could possibly do as well. You could sign up for 3D Secure. For merchants that aren't familiar with it, 3D Secure is a second extra layer of validation that cardholders go through when purchasing. And I don't want to confuse this topic too much. It doesn't show up all the time. Most cardholders will not know a transaction is 3D secured. But if the issuer would otherwise decline it, what they do is they send a text out to the customer's phone. Hey, is this a legitimate attempt at using your credit card? Text back 1 if yes. That way, the issuer has an alternative as opposed to just declining the order, to at least let the customer go through the 3D Secure checkout process. And sometimes, no matter what you do, maybe you just can't get an approval, because it does happen. And when that happens, you're going to need to reattempt the transaction. So the first thing you should do here is, when you get a response back in payment processing, your payment processor they should give you whatever information they have about the order. So for example, if the decline was actually caused by your processor, they would say, hey, this IP address attempted too many transactions. So that would be like an anti-fraud decline on your side, on the processing side. But those are easy to strip away. Where the decline comes back from the card issuer, sometimes it includes information, like you could get a do not honor or card expired decline. There's lots of reasons things can be declined. But the ones that we're talking about are usually very generic. It'll be like an anonymous card issuer decline. When that happens, you can present a message to your customer. And I'm paraphrasing what your website would say. It would appear that your credit card was declined. Please try another card, or contact your card issuer and ask if they have blocked this transaction. If they have blocked it, ask them to release the block and then click here to try again. And then you have the try again button right below, because what you're trying to do is maximize your conversions. You want to make it as easy as possible to get that reorder attempt through. Also, if the customer clicks off, what you could do is you could have a follow-up process with your abandoned carts. And I'm getting into more e-commerce stuff, but a way to recover those is you could have a list in your database of issuer side declines that did not go through, and you could call the customer and say, hey, John, we noticed that you made an attempt to buy on our website yesterday, and it looks like it got declined. Did you contact your issuer to ask if they blocked it? Oh, you did, and they released the block. Would you like me to try and run that through right now? And then you can just key it in and it will work. As long as the issuer is not blocking it, you can absolutely put that transaction through. And a lot of this stuff that I'm talking about is, well, they're workarounds. They're workarounds to the fact that we can't control the issuer. We can do what we can, but the ball's out of our court, which takes me to my next topic. It's like, is there a way to stop it from happening and permanently solve the problem? Well, the way that you prevent international transactions from being declined, and for clarity, I should have said this at the outset, international transactions don't get declined. It's a small fraction of your overall transactions get declined because of the anti-fraud algorithm sometimes gets tripped. But is there a way to prevent that from ever happening? What I'm saying is, how can I make it so international transactions have zero impact on my approval rate? Well, easy. You make them not international in nature. So I'm Canadian. Let's say that I had a lot of sales to US customers. What I would do is I would get a US domestic merchant account, a merchant account issued by a US payment processor, so that when the transaction happened, this is a US merchant account, this is a US card, the transactions are not crossing a border. That is the solution, but it's not always an easy solution. The reason it's not easy is because you can't get a US merchant account if you do not have a US registered business. This is a Visa and MasterCard rule. It's a Visa and MasterCard rule to payment processors. As a Canadian payment processor, I can't just work with an Australian merchant. I might love this Australian business and they might have Canadian customers and Canadian sales. I can't just work with them because the license from Visa and MasterCard to the processor does not allow it. They need to register their business in Canada to allow me to work with them. So coming back to my earlier example, as a Canadian business, if I want a US merchant account, I need a US registered business. And if I do that, then I'm getting into corporation and I'm going to have to deal with tax returns and the IRS. It's totally worth it if you do a lot of sales, but it is not worth it if you don't do significant volumes. So you have to weigh it and decide whether it's right for you. So in summary here, what you want to do as a merchant is understand why cross-border transactions happen and confidently have a process both on your website to try and explain to the customer what's happening and making it easy to attempt the reorder. So like make it clear and easy for them. Contact your card issuer, ask if they blocked it. Once they confirm they blocked it, ask them to release the block. Click here to try again. Second, have a follow-up process to those customers that abandon their cart so you can help them and elbow grease that customer service so you can recapture that sale. And if you do enough transactions in a foreign jurisdiction, consider incorporating there and get a domestic merchant account there. We help with that all the time at merchantaccounts.ca with help with issues like this and similar issues. If you have any questions, contact us. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day there. Bye now.